I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your weekly feeder cattle market summary for the week ending December the 21st, which will be the last National Feeder Cattle Market Summary video for 2012. And for this last week of marketing in the feeder cattle arena, yearlings and feeder calves weighing over 650 pounds going right into the feedlot sold firm to $3 higher. Steer and heifer calves traded $3 to $6 higher fully, and maybe spots more than that, especially down in the southeast where they wrapped up this year's order buying and getting their loads put together and shipping them out west, and they'll be completely shut down for 2 weeks, and most all sale barns will be closed entirely for the Christmas week. Few major sale barns will have some replacement specials with some bred cows and pairs there real late in the week, right before New Year's. But for the most part, we're done with feeder cattle marketing, and it wrapped up pretty well. The full advance of the market this week was seen early in the week. Right out of the box there, your Monday markets were quite a bit higher as last week's markets were higher, and it just kind of kept going from that. Late in the week, we did see some reservations and the market pulled back a little bit, especially close to the areas where the storm come through. The season's first winter storm come right through up from the southern plains and come up the Kansas, come up to the western part of Missouri, up into Nebraska, across Iowa, and headed on east from there. But saw some pretty significant snowfall come in. Areas of Nebraska and Iowa saw up to a foot of snow, which they couldn't have asked for any more. That's exactly what they need in that part of the country. It's what they need in a lot of parts of the country. We need snow and moisture of any kind, but a good old wet snow. They were sure glad to get it, but the high winds we could have done without. You know, 30, 40, 50, even 60-mile-an-hour winds blowed that snow and made driving almost impossible. Blizzard conditions in many parts of the country. Many interstates and major roads were closed up north due to blowing snow. I-29 that sits right outside the office here was closed for a time due to blowing snow and the slick roads. But down south, it was dirt that was blowing. High winds there in Texas Panhandle blowing that dirt, and it caused I-27 between Amarillo and Lubbock to be closed, and pretty significant accidents happened in that area. You just couldn't see a thing due to that blowing dirt, as that dryland wheat doesn't have enough to it to keep the dirt from blowing, and not enough irrigation in that part of the country really to keep the dirt from blowing on those wheat fields. But moisture was a good thing, and we were glad to get it. It did seem to maybe help the calf market as we start thinking that maybe it's never going to have any moisture again. We start seeing some moisture even though it's in blowing snow, and it's comforting to know that we can get some moisture in places again. 2013 is coming up. It's going to be monumental when you talk about feeder cattle markets, replacement cattle markets, maybe slaughter cattle markets. It remains to be seen in some of that, but for the commercial cattlemen, 2013 is going to hit some high spots. We're expecting record high prices. We don't know if it's going to hit all classes. We're probably going to see the fruition of tight supplies of cattle due to record droughts for the last 2 or 3 years, big herd sell-offs, and there's just going to be a lot of anticipation for those tight supplies to show up. Anticipation to see if we're going to have a normal year or another year of drought. Anticipation big time to see if we're going to have a normal corn crop year, which could really help alleviate a lot of problems on those feed costs. But just a huge year. These calf prices did have a nice run up here late in the year. We don't know what we're going to see right after the first of the year, but as much as these calves have run up the last few weeks of the year, we expect them to keep on going. In Valentine, Nebraska this week on Thursday had 120 head, 538-pound steers. NHTC, or drug-free cattle, bring $195.50. Big price. A lot of heifers in the sale sold for replacement, bringing around $1,000, weighing in the 5s and 6s up to 700 pounds there. But we're starting to see those big prices again. And although we know that these feeder markets are going to get rather wild, especially if we get some moisture and the closer we get to spring, but perhaps something everybody's not looking for is what these slaughter cows can do. We've had huge sell-off of slaughter cows again this year on lighter supply or smaller head counts of cows. We did have a lot of open cows late in the year coming back. Not sure, probably because of that drought and the heat there, but a lot of open cows, which kind of kept the slaughter cow market in check, even though a lot of them were younger cows, had enough weight to them, where guys that didn't have hay or a place to turn them out couldn't really compete with the packer buyers. Kind of kept that slaughter cow market in check. But when we get into the new year, when we get past these bred cow specials and things like that, there's no reason to have very many slaughter cows to sell. And these boneless beef processing plants are still going to need it. And we can expect these slaughter cow prices to get pretty wild pretty fast when we get into 2013. This week, fat cattle sold $1.50 to $3 higher, from $1.26 to $1.27, and the board actually pulled the cash market along this week, which doesn't happen very often. Regional weighted averages this week in the north central states, a 700 to 800 pound steer cost you $150.103 compared to $150.26 last week and $146.44 a year ago. In the south central states, a 600 to 700 pound steer cost you $150.195 compared to $150.153 and $146.11 a year ago. Down in the southeast, a 500 to 600 pound steer cost you $150.42 compared to $144.99 last week, $140.18 a year ago. This wraps up our marketing and our summaries for this year. All of us here at Market News, USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a profitable New Year, and we'll talk to you then.